Bob, this is something you've wanted to see for some time. Am I correct?
Yeah, absolutely. In my 15 years of watching the private prison industry, this is probably the single biggest day for those of us that think that corporations don't have a place in locking people up. So this is huge news.
Bob, explain to us how this happened. There have been investors have been bullish on this space for a while, but it's always been a risk that the public sentiment could turn, that an event like this could happen. What were the chain of events that led up to this decision today?
Well, I think this really goes back 15 years at least. These contracts really helped save the private prison industry in the late 1990s when the BOP really bailed out an industry that was really struggling. And over the last decade, the private prison industry has really made its money on federal contracts. That's where the growth has been, either through Immigration and Customs Enforcement or through the Bureau of Prisons. However, in recent years, there's been a number of prisoner protests and uprisings in these BOP contracted facilities, which are facilities that immigrants are segregated into. And then there's been several investigative reports in The Nation magazine. There was an ACLU expose, and just last week the OIG from the Department of Justice issued a damning report on conditions in these facilities. And I think that these things combined with the fact that the federal prison population is down by 25,000 from its peak in 2013 created the conditions that we're seeing the announcement that we saw today.
Bob, I was looking at a securities filing. There's a wealth of information, as you know, in these SEC filings by the Corrections Corp of America, the bigger of these two private prison operators. In 2015, it got 51% of its revenue from the federal government, so clearly this is an existential problem for Corrections Corporation, but only 11% of its revenue from the Bureau of Prisons, to which the DOJ recommendation or order applies. What about the other two federal agencies, Immigration, Customs and Enforcement, and the U.S. Marshal Service? What's going to happen with those?
Well, that's exactly right, and that's the big question today. While the BOP will be phasing out its contracts over the next several years, there is no announcement that the U.S. Marshal Service or Immigration and Customs Enforcement would do the same. I think that those of us that have been watching this for a long time have high hopes that these other agencies will follow suit. There's no reason to believe that the facilities that the private prison corporations operate in either of these other agencies operate any better. And in fact, I think that there is a move away from immigration detention as well. We've seen certainly both Democratic candidates for president have said that they would reduce immigration detention and in private prison contracts. And I think, today's announcement very well may be a turning point for federal agencies and state and local governments to begin rethinking their contracts with these companies.
Yeah, Bob, we just have a few seconds left. Tell us about the work that's being done on the state and local level and where we should be watching for further developments on that front.
Well, at state and local levels as well as the federal level, governments are turning to policies that lock up fewer people, and that's bad for private prison corporations. And so, I would expect there to be more contract cancellations in the future.